Welcome to FM Scout and to this Football Manager video. My name is Luke and today I'm bringing you a brand new FM21 video looking at my 5 top tips for finding wonder kids in FM21. Before we do get into this video today though, if you do enjoy it, make sure to chuck a like down onto it, and of course if you're not already, make sure to get yourself subscribed to FM Scout and also to ring that notification bell to be notified when any content here on Scout goes live. Of course, if you do want to check out my own content as well, I have a channel, LS Plays FM, where I have various types of FM21 content such as Let's Plays, how-to videos and also tactics series. You'll find down in the description below a link to my channel, again LS Plays FM. You can come on over, check it out and maybe drop a sub as well. But without any further ado, let's get into this video here today looking at my top 5 tips for finding wonder kids in FM21. Here we are then in FM21 and I'm here currently a couple of years into the game where we've got a few new gens and regens and so on starting to sprout up in FM21, and I'm currently here as the Borussia Dortmund manager. Firstly because of the fact, I mean, it's Dortmund at the end of the day, and Dortmund are very much well known for their wonder kids in real life and also in FM21, so it very much makes sense. And we're also this far in so we can actually properly look over all of the techniques and so on I'm going to be bringing to you today. Now, a couple of these techniques are useful for finding players just in general as well as wonder kids, and some are just very much only for wonder kids. In terms of the first tip we're going to be looking at though today, it is regarding scouting assignments. Now, in FM21, a lot of players often don't like to look after their own scouting assignments because of the fact it can be quite a lengthy process, and also it doesn't always make that much sense in terms of what you're doing. But when it comes to finding wonder kids, using scouting assignments can be really useful for both finding wonder kids and just really good players in general. In terms of how you actually set up your own assignments, firstly you have to go into scouting on here and you have to make sure your scouting responsibility, this little tab up here in the top left, is set to yourself as manager. At the moment it is. Sometimes you may come onto it and you may find you've got your director of football, maybe your chief scout is set to it. In order to change it, you just click the take control button here. It will then make sure you are in control of your scouting assignments and everything to do with scouting. In order to actually set your own ones then, you then just click on assignments here and it'll bring you to this screen on here. You'll see at the moment I have no current assignments set up for any scouts, and that's because of course I've just changed it and then set it back. In order to create your own ones, you have to just click on create new assignment, and then what I do when it comes to actually setting up my assignments for finding wonder kids is I will set it to a region. So for example, I'm currently of course managing as Dortmund, so I could do it as Central Europe. I could go to any region I want. So of course South America East especially is very much known for bringing through good regen, new gen talents, because you've got Brazil, Argentina, countries like that in it. You could look at Eastern Europe, maybe Africa. Of course, it depends on where you're playing in the game, how far you're able to scout, so it may be slightly different. But regardless of what you're allowed to choose, if you set a region, you should be able to hopefully find some wonder kids, or at least some very good young talent in and around that area. What I will do is I will select Central Europe just for this example here. We'll click that. You can see it's selected it on here. Now, all I have to now do is I have to then choose what conditions I actually want to set for my assignment. So I will click on this drop down arrow here on the screen. I will then click on scouted current ability. I will then do it again, but this time select scouted potential ability, and also do it once more for age as well. So at the moment I have a couple of conditions, but they haven't been set to what I want them to be. I now have to click on age, and at the moment it automatically will set it to is at most. In other words, it's looking at the age of a player is at most 33 years of age. I don't want it to be that. I want it to be is at most 20 or 21. Of course, depends on exactly how you want it to be. I will set it to 20 in this example. So it's only going to find players who are at most the age of 20 or younger. I can then go and set the other options on here, the current and potential ability as well. Quite often with current ability, I will set this to say, for example, fairly good. In other words, the player has to be at least 2.5 stars. Of course, if you want them to be more than that or lower than that, you can, of course, change it. My own preference is I set this to being on fairly good. And then I will then do the same for potential, but I will make that obviously higher because I want them to have a lot of potential. And I'm going to put that to excellent, which means they have to have at least 4.5 stars of potential. And of course it means you're only going to find players at the age of 20 or younger who are basically very decent already at this stage of their career and have a lot of room to grow into, because of course they are wonder kids. Of course you can set this to however you want them to be, but personally this is my own preference when I do this, and it often finds a lot of good talent. You then just have to make sure you set your duration on here to ongoing, and then do start assignment. It will get given to the most suited scout basically in your list of scouts, and it is chosen this scout here. Once the assignment has been set, much like we have just done here, you will find sporadically in game you'll get emails sent to you about recommendations and so on of certain players, and also when you come into your scouting center up here, you will find other recommendations in here for players. You can of course have a look through them, see what you think of the players, see if they're good enough for you, and then maybe even look to buy them if you like the look of them. But this right here with the scouting assignments is a really great place to start off looking for Wonderkids in FM21. Now the second method we're going to cover is the international team method. A bit more of a well-known method in my opinion, and one that probably quite a lot of players do use, but maybe others aren't actually aware of this method. And what you do with it is you quite literally go into an international team, whether it be a first team or under-21 squad, and it could be any team across the world, and see if you can spot any youngsters basically breaking into the first team or the under-21s, under-23s, that type of thing at a very young age. Because generally speaking, if you're going into the senior squad or the under-23s and seeing like a 16, 17, 18-year-old, 19-year-old breaking into those teams and getting into the first team actually playing, they're generally going to be quite good players. So I'm here at the moment looking at Croatia, and if I go and look at their national team and then senior squad, I've already got it sorted by age. But if you're not sure how to do this, if you just click where it says age, it will then automatically sort it for you, put the youngest players at the top of the list. And I can see already in this squad of course first team Croatians, there's a couple of youngsters not only in the squad but actually playing as first teamers in the team. You can see, for example, this central defender here from Wasilijek, only 19 years of age. I'm only a couple of years into the games. This player is definitely going to be a new gen, regen type player. Milan Malincic, if I actually click on him straight away, a very good looking player, 19 years old, a very capable both central defender, maybe even defence midfielder. I could of course scout him, and then if I like the look of him, if I like how much potential he's got, if I like the report, if I could then of course go and pick him up. You can then look through other players on here like Ivan Basic, currently over at Charleroi, very decent winger, very good physically at 19. Again, I could scout him, maybe look to pick him up. And of course, you can then repeat this through, say, the under-21 squad, the under-20 squad, and you can even quite literally just flick through all of the international teams and see if you can find any decent players. It's always worth doing this. You can always find some really decent players. You can also find some players from obscure nations in the game. But of course, that right there, guys, is our second method, and it's the international team method in FM21. Now, the third tip that I have when it comes to finding Wonderkids in Football Manager is one that actually links back to the second one we just covered regarding the international team method. But this one's probably a little bit easier and also a little bit less time consuming, but sometimes doesn't always offer up quite as many players as quite literally looking through all the international teams. And this one is actually looking for players who have international caps but are below a certain age. So what you have to do first of all is you have to come onto your scouting, your player search page, which I'm on here currently. I've already got it set so it's going to look for players who are interested in a transfer. I set on this cog here to doubtful, so in other words, basically players who are even only doubtful in terms of joining the club will still be listed here on this page for us. You then just have to click on the new search option here on the top right, and then you just come on here. First of all, you set an age range, so I'm going to look for only players at the age of 20, a bit like what we did with the scouting assignments earlier on, and I need to add a condition, and that condition will be on the international one. If you go onto then international caps and you have at least one cap, then what that will do is it will list every single player in the game who is between, of course, the ages of 15 and 20 and has had at least one international cap in their time while playing football. So of course straight away that's only going to list to you players who have played for an international side, and then if you then sort it by value or sort it by age, you can of course have a flick through these players and see what you think of them. So if I have a look at some of these players, for example, there's a Mexican player here over at America, Club America, over in, of course, Mexico. He's an 18-year-old striker, Mario Barrera. If I look at him, looks like a very decent prospect, only at the age of 18, only played 4 times for Mexico with 1 goal. I could of course scout him, see what I think of him, maybe pick him up, and then you can quite literally just go through all the list on here and see what you think of these players. But it's in a really good, useful way of just spotting young wonder kids who have already started playing for their international team, because that's always a really good hint that they're very good players in FM21. Now, the fourth method we're going to be looking at is one that's a little bit similar to the last one we looked at, but rather than looking at international caps here on the player search page, we're going to be focusing on attributes instead, and as a result is an attribute method. And what you have to do is you have to make sure you're here on the player search screen first of all. I've already got my transfer tick already in there from the last search we did, and I've got the age range between 15 and 20, much like we have for that last method as well. And then all you have to do is you have to go onto the attributes button here where it says pick. If you then click it, it brings up a menu for attributes in the game, and I'm going to then quite literally tick every single attribute available in FM21. I don't often tick set pieces because personally I'm not really fussed if I have players who are good at them or not, so I don't tick them myself. I then tick everything for the goalkeeper except eccentricity and also punching tendency and rushing out, just because, again, I'm not quite as fussed on that with a goalkeeper. If you want to tick those, you can do. I then tick every single mental attribute that is in the game, including stuff like flair, just because it can be quite useful, and I tick every single physical as well. Then what you have to do is you have to set a minimum requirement for these attributes. So I'm going to set this to be, say, 13 in every single attribute. So in other words, it's only going to show me a player who has 13 in every single attribute we've selected there, which of course is going to be absolutely no one, because there's no one that good in the game. So what you then have to do is you have to set a number of requirements that this search basically has to hit. So it has to match a certain amount of them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for basically any player who matches, let's say, 16 of these 40 attributes that have at least 13. And you can see it's starting to populate, and straight away it's given to us 102 players who are in the game who are between the ages of 15 and 20. So they're of course young players, and across 16 of those attributes we selected, they have at least 13 in them. So in other words, they are very, very decent, competent players at a very, very young age. And generally speaking, these are all going to be wonder kids. If we go and have a look at, say, one of the players, there's a player over at FMSCOUT over in Portugal, not a particularly big team, but let's have a look at this player here. He's 19, central defender, looks a very, very decent player indeed. Very, very much competent. Those mentals and those physicals, especially at only 19, he's going to become a very, very good player. And of course, quite literally, you could scout him and then possibly pick him up. And then you could just go through the list of all these players, see what you think. You can, of course, adjust these on here, maybe lower them to 12s, or you can lower down the number of matches you want, or maybe up it as well, or adjust the age range and see what you find. But this right here is the attribute method, and it's a really, really good method for finding young wonder kids in FM21. Now, the final method I will cover with you here today for finding wonder kids in FM21 is the media description method. And what this is basically in the game, every single player is given what is called a media description. This is a description quite literally given by the in-game media, which will describe how the player kind of plays, their playing style, how good they are, that type of stuff. And one of the descriptions that is often given in game to a certain bunch of young players is the description of wonder kid. If we have a look, for example, just at this player here, Pedro Montero, he's not a particularly good player. If I just click on its overview and then go to information, you'll see there's a media description here on the page for him. He's a young attacking midfielder. So every single player in game has one of these descriptions, and then there's a bunch of about 100, 150 players that get given wonder kid status in the game, and you can actually search for this when you are on a player search page. All you have to do is you have to make sure the tab of media description is selected in your game. I already have it selected here on here, but if you click on insert column and you go down to general and then you go down to what would be media description here, of course you can't see it for me because I've already got it selected, but it will be in between left foot and media handling style. You can just tick it, it will then appear in your list, and you can then sort your list by the media description. And then when you are on here, if you scroll down, you'll then see I have a list of all of the wonder kid players in the game. You can then just go and quite literally highlight all of them, add them to your shortlist, scout them, and see what you think of them. Of course, if you're at the top of the page here, you have to scroll down quite a way because you have to go through everything alphabetically, and there is obviously a lot of players in game. But once you've found them, once you scouted them, you can of course look to pick them up. If I look at, say, Juan Vicente here over at Atletico, a very, very good young left back, only 18 years old, very decent player. And of course you can just go through quite literally every single player on this list. Another player here at Lens, very good winger, again only 19, very, very decent player. But that right there is our final method for finding wonder kids in FM21. Overall though, that there brings this video here today to a close, and hopefully these 5 methods for finding wonder kids you'll find to be very helpful in Football Manager. Of course, they're all slightly different ways of finding players, but they all work arguably very, very well. And I use them all myself, and I find they all help me to find young players in the game. Hopefully you will find it to be helpful, and if you enjoyed the video, do make sure to chuck a like down onto it, and if you're not already, do make sure to get yourself subscribed to FMSCOUT and to hit that notification bell to be notified when any content here for FMSCOUT goes live. And as I mentioned earlier on as well, if you want to come over, check out my own channel, LS Plays FM, you'll find a link down in the description for it. You can come on over, check out the content, and hopefully subscribe as well. But guys, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you again next time.